High tension prevails in Ukraine's Bakhmut as Russia steps up its assault. Ukraine's ground forces commander says Russian forces are looking to encircle the town. According to reports, Russia is trying to cut Ukraine's supply lines to force a surrender. Ukraine's military said Russia has strengthened its forces in the Bakhmut area and is constantly shelling settlements around the city. Russian news agency released a video of Russian Su-25 warplanes as they continue to launch missiles in the area of Bakhmut. Meanwhile, rain and an early spring thawed out of frozen grounds turned eastern Ukraine's battlefields into muddy trenches. This spring thaw has a history of watering down plans by armies to attack regions across Ukraine and Russia, as they turned roads into rivers and fields into marshlands. This includes great army generals like Napoleon.
We're tuned in for victory, only for victory. Especially my guys are the best. At any weather, be it rain, mud or snow, they carry out their work. It doesn't matter to them. When we're given a target, that means we have to destroy it. That's the only way to do it. There's no way around.
Russia said its forces have destroyed a Ukrainian ammunition depot near Bakhmut and shot down US-made rockets and Ukrainian drones. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry said the United States is planning a provocation in Ukraine using toxic chemicals.
The fact that toxic chemicals and protective means were delivered simultaneously demonstrates an attempt to perform large-scale provocations with the use of BZ combat psychoactive substances in the course of the conflict in Ukraine.
For more on this, Professor David Dunn, Professor of International Politics, University of Birmingham, joins us from Birmingham live. Welcome to WION, Professor.
Good afternoon.
Sir, the inevitable spring thaw, could it really be enough to overthrow the Russian spring offensive?
Well, certainly weather does play a huge part in this, and the conditions are, as you described, very visibly seen in the footage from the area of mud. So moving armour quickly over that type of terrain is very difficult. But in the meantime, the Russians are focused primarily on the symbolic prize of trying to take Bakhmut, a town, in fact, that they have largely destroyed. So the prize is a symbolic one rather than a particularly meaningful one, because the town is destroyed, its population have fled.
Professor, do you feel this was one of the reasons why President Zelensky has been demanding fighter jets and preparing a fleet of kamikaze drones to counter Russia in the air?
Well, the Ukrainians are focused on two things, on holding back the Russian offensive that has been planned as a consequence of Russia's mass mobilization of another 300,000 soldiers. But it's partly that, but also actually their own counteroffensive and liberating their illegally occupied territory. And fighter jets are a key component of that in the combined armed concept, that you have artillery, you have ground forces, and you have them supported from the air. The Ukrainian Air Force has suffered attrition, but it's still flying, but it could do with being resupplied with either jets from Poland, like the MiG-29s that it flies, or from more sophisticated ones that they're asking from the West. But it's both defensive and offensive, and the Ukrainians recognize the importance of air power in this war, a way in which the air power could perhaps turn the tide against the Russians, because air power hasn't been a large part of this conflict to date, partly due to the success of ground-based air defenses against Russian air power over Ukraine.
David, in the current marshy, slushy conditions, how do you see the frontline offensive looking like? Will it be lesser tanks and more drones now? Because be it Russia or Ukraine, both sides are going to face a lot of disadvantage.
Yeah. The slush, as you describe it, makes any sort of advance difficult. But the Russians have actually adopted a very much a World War I type of tactic throwing large waves of personnel at the Ukrainian forces, expending bodies, using them rather like cannon fodder. Often these people are being recruited by the mercenary organization Wagner from Russia's prisons, and therefore they're seen as expendable and not necessarily having families grieving for them in the same way as regular soldiers. And that type of warfare is difficult to do when it's slushy and more losses are suffered. And the Ukrainians are responding by dealing with those large human waves by using artillery, trying to sit back and take them out by artillery rounds rather than anything else. But the weather conditions, the mud, makes for slow progress. And what we've seen really since last summer is largely stagnant front lines along that long border between the Russian-occupied Ukraine and Ukraine proper. And the Russians are hoping for some sort of breakthrough, right, but there doesn't seem to be much prospect of that anytime soon.
Thank you for all your input, sir.